Hey, everybody. Welcome to Thursday Night Live with the WRC. If you're tuning in for the first time or you joined us last week, either way, we're happy to have you here. Just to kind of brief everybody, if you, again, were joining for the first time, this is Thursday Night Live, a dynamic weekly gathering with the Wellness Resource Center where we will reflect on recent wellness programming, touch on a specific topic for the week, which if you saw this week's Facebook cover post, that is resilience in the time of COVID-19. We'll have guests on our show. Okay, yeah, I like the word show. We'll have guests on the live. This week, we're very lucky to have Elder in Residence Debbie Howell with us, so you'll hear directly from her about her role, about resilience in the time of COVID-19, Sexual Assault Awareness Month, a variety of topics. And just to reiterate what I said last week, and what I will continue to say is that if you've interacted with WRC already in person, then you already know that we work to cultivate a space that is empathetic, trauma-informed, compassionate, and respectful in language and action. And with that being said, then our kind of expectations of folks in this online gathering are not different. We want to hear from you. That is the point of doing this. If you have questions, things that you would like to hear us elaborate on, points of your own to kind of add to the conversation, I will be monitoring our Facebook feed either on my desktop here or mobilely. So if I'm kind of looking distracted, I promise I'm tuned in, but you'll hear me pop in with what folks are saying, and we want to hear. So we want to hear your thoughts. We want to hear your, responses to what we're saying, and we hope that that's in line with the ways that we would interact if we were in person this Thursday evening. So with that kind of being said, let's get started. Anna, this is looking at you.
Sure. Hello, my name's Anna Thompson. My pronouns are she, hers. I'm the Sexual Assault Response Coordinator here on campus. So I'm a confidential resource here to provide support for anyone directly or indirectly affected by gender-based violence. Today we're talking about resilience. And so first I want to introduce Debbie Howell and give her a chance to explain her role and how she supports students and a little bit of her background. Debbie?
Noa, tarachiksihu daraku tiri, tatasa skaga, duru jirau. In Pawnee, hello, I'm glad to see you. My name is Woman of the Field. How are you? And in my Dakota language, Amitakiapi, Debbie Howell, Imachiapi, Okeshki, Yunhe. Hello, relatives. My name is Debbie Howell. How are you? It's always good to see Colorado College students and staff. I'm an enrolled member of the Pawnee Nation of Oklahoma, and I'm also Sisseton Wahpeton, Dakota. In American Indian cultures, tribal elders are known as wisdom keepers of tribal traditions, history, and practices, and are vital in teaching the process of babies through adulthood. My primary role here at Colorado College is to support a diverse community of students. As elder in residence, I'm here to provide elder care to all students and to staff and faculty. I have office hours through WebEx, and I'm happy to set up a virtual meeting with you. Just email me and let me know what time works for you.
Great. Thank you so much, Debbie. So glad to have you on campus as a resource, and I can tell already resilience is worked into your job. So just to get started, Debbie, what is resilience to you, and on a individual and community level? How would you define it, and what does it look like for you and in your work as a tribal elder?
Well, I like how an Lakota author put it, as being strong on the inside and having a courageous spirit. So yes, in everyday terminology, it's the ability to cope and handle difficulties, no matter what they are. And individually, resiliency goes back to my family, my upbringing, my tribes, my culture, and my spirituality. My spiritual practices keep me strong, and the love for my family, friends, and community keeps me going, helps me keep that strength. And I think resiliency for the community is really just showing compassion when needed. So if you're in a position, whether it's physically, spiritually, financially, or mentally, offer that support to people. I often think of the Waldo Canyon fire and how it devastated a community just to the south of us, where there were 347 homes that were wiped out. And that was back in 2012. And some people I know left with just the clothes on their back, and they came home to nothing. They lost their priceless heirlooms and family treasures, photos that can't be replaced. But they did have their lives, and that was really the most important thing together. Most important thing. But the whole city came together after the fact and helped spark that resilience in those victims by offering them support, offering them various kinds of assistance, and also showing gratitude is also important in resilience. I remember those first responders were greeted with cheers on the side of the road, and the neighbor across the street still has a fence that says thank you to the WC something, Waldo Canyon first responders. And so, it's just, being able to offer what you can to people in need.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. What I'm getting a lot from what you're saying is resilience is something cultivated in community, and maybe in that way that helps the individual build resilience, but also contribute to their community. So thank you for sharing about did you say, what was it called? Waldo Canyon?
Yes.
I hadn't heard about that. Yeah, resilience as community connection, maybe like mutual aid, is kind of what I'm hearing from you, especially you define like individual resilience for you is like connection to your family, to your tribe. And so that kind of makes sense. Community resilience is, connection to individuals and families and helping each other out. So I don't know, I've witnessed, that made me kind of think about the CC community so far in the past few weeks, trying to show compassion, which I definitely, at least in my corner of CC, people have been really striving to show compassion, like recognizing that this is a hard time for people, giving them cutting some slack when it comes to schoolwork or working. Everyone's trying this new technology. Have you seen anything like that as well? Any demonstrations of resilience from community members?
From community members, yes. Well, I see, the support, the resilience of the students, and especially the seniors. How disappointing for them that they can't graduate, and now it's official that they won't have a graduation ceremony. And after 4 years of hard work at Colorado College, disappointing. But I know that for many of the NASU students, there is already a plan to help them receive that the gifts that they would have. And just the offering of words and more contact virtually, although it's kind of, it's new to me.
Yeah.
Just so that they know that they're not alone. And the students, I think, have really shown their resiliency, and They say they understand about graduation and well, they're home now with their families and maybe not what they had. Not everything's not as how they had wanted it to be, but we're in a good place right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something like the idea that resiliency is something that we cultivate both individually and as a community really resonates to me. And that idea you were talking, Debbie, about both in the Waldo Canyon example and the NASU students of even when we're facing something that we don't want, that's really trying for us. I always like the phrase, sometimes people talk about, keeping a positive attitude. And I like thinking about it as thinking about what's possible and the possibilities instead of the problems. And when we engage gratitude, or like the NASU students are like, okay, this kind of sucks, but let's think about what's possible here. How can we still find the connections that are meaningful and make this experience what we would like it to be given the circumstances? That really speaks to resilience for me. That resonates.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think going off of that, Heather, excuse me, being able to think outside of the box and think creatively about how to make the most of a situation that you may not have expected. And I think, we're really forced to do that in our work, and then as students, forced to do that in managing your classwork and engaging with staff and other supports. And that also kind of goes back to what we were talking about last week, where we really want to hear from students, like what are the things that you're thinking creatively about, and what are some ways that we would be able to creatively help you overcome some of these unexpected challenges and barriers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of unexpected challenges, as you said. I think there was like a period for all communities and individuals where they had to go through a process of like accepting that this is actually happening. I think it happened really suddenly, and people are like, what? Like, we're really leaving? Are we going to come back to Block 8? So I think resilience, like in the face of certain challenges, it requires a process. And I think one of the important ones is acceptance at the beginnings and then building or strategizing from there.
Yeah, if I can just kind of add to what Anna said really quickly, on the note of accepting reality, I'll even throw that word out there. I have really been thinking hard about resilience in this moment. What does that mean for me? Because I think about myself a lot, and sometimes that feels a little selfish or self-centered, but then again, like, I also work in a place that is centered on empathy, so I'm, not too worried there. But I have seen these headlines in multiple kind of, from multiple sources saying that Black and Latino people who contract COVID-19 are suffering more, that there are higher, I think what I saw was like disproportionately affecting that COVID-19, or people are being disproportionately affected. And that's like really hard for me to stomach because I believe it. I believe it totally. But it's tough to be I said this to my roommate earlier, but like in a pandemic while Black, like I can't I feel like I'm pandemicking in a very particular way right now that is therefore requiring a really specific type of resilience from me. And I'm being really challenged to grow, and I can just really feel it. But just to kind of add the nuance that, like, we're kind of to this conversation about like, well, who is resilient and how are those ways particular?
I feel like, thank you for that, Issa. I feel like that connects to like thinking about community resilience and individual resilience, that there are those factors in our environment that we know to be protective, right? And for us to create resilient communities means we have to address the systemic issues that create differential outcomes for different folks. And there's some empowerment in the idea or the belief I have that we can make change. And at the same time, for folks who are really living it every day, it looks like barriers, right? It looks like lots of things being thrown up to challenge their own resilience. But from a resiliency standpoint, like thinking about how do we engage with what's possible, what we can do. And when I talk about resiliency, I often talk about Master Oogway in Kung Fu Panda is my example, because he says, like, you must give up the illusion of control, because as human beings, we want to be in control all the time, right? And we have to be able to let go of the things that we can't control for our own personal resiliency and focus on what we can. And it sounds like for you, you're really thinking about where are my spheres of control, where I can do things that help me. And that helps us be really resilient in the face of super challenging times.
I also think, Isa, what you said was making me think about the ways that, like, can everyone hear me? Because my internet has been so bad. Is this working?
Yes.
Okay. But I was thinking about the ways that, like, to me, the word resiliency is directly related with the word strength, and like also is so much of the time. I think it's not always a direct result of adversity, but is so often something that is built up through the experience of facing adversity and overcoming adversity. And so then by that kind of line of thinking, there's ways in which certain communities like have to be more resilient and become resilient kind of as a result of facing this systemic adversity and oppression, which like isn't okay and isn't fair. But then again, it's also this like beautiful form of the strength that results from that. And then like, I think that the way that is really interesting and feels really salient in this moment of COVID, especially, where like, I mean, I've just been seeing all over the place people raising the point that this moment really shows us the ways that community resilience impacts individual resilience so deeply, and the ways that like that adversity that you are experiencing disproportionately because of race is impacting also like the whole community resilience, that like our inability to give people equal access to the things that they need to survive and thrive makes us a less resilient community as a whole, and like is also part of the reason that we're so ill-equipped to be dealing with this pandemic. And I don't know. Yeah.
Isa, I haven't seen that report, but I will make every effort this evening to take a look at those numbers, which are very disheartening. I've been reading that in the Zuni Pueblo, there are many cases now, and they have been told they could face extinction. The Navajo reservation, they've been quarantined